There's that one friend who's always a maybe. The message on read, the excuse about a headache, the I'll let you know that everyone knows means no. If that friend is you, and you've ever felt a deep sense of relief when plans get canceled, you're in the right place. Today, we're not just saying you're an introvert. We're tracing the invisible wiring that makes your sofa the most exciting place on earth. We redecoding the psychology of people who genuinely prefer the quiet of their own four walls, the one society often labels as antisocial, but neuroscience is beginning to understand as something far more complex. Here's the core truth: it's not about being shy. It's about where you plug in to recharge. For some, energy flows from the crowd, from the noise and the collision of personalities. But for others, every conversation, every bit of small talk, every piece of external stimulation is a slow leak in their battery. Psychologists call this the concept of arousal regulation. Your brain has a set point for how much stimulation it needs to function optimally. Extroverts have a low baseline. They need the noise to feel normal. Introverts have a high baseline. They need quiet to dial the volume of the world back down to zero. Home isn't a prison. It's the charging dock. But there's a deeper layer beneath simple introversion. For many, the preference for home is a preference for sovereignty. In the outside world, you're a passenger. You can't control the loud conversation at the next table, the sudden change of plans, or the aggressive driver on your way to the venue. At home, you are the architect. You control the temperature, the playlist, the scent in the air. For highly sensitive people, this isn't a luxury. Control isn't a luxury. For some, it's survival. This command over your environment is a psychological anchor in a chaotic world. Here's a paradox that might surprise you. History suggests that the preference for solitude isn't a modern flaw. It was an ancient survival tactic. The individuals who sat apart, who observed rather than charged in, who noticed the subtle shift in the wind or the unusual rustle in the bush, they were the ones who kept the tribe safe. They were the scouts, the sentinels. That same genetic inheritance lives in you. That desire to sit and watch the rain, to process information without the urgency of social demand, it's where deep problem-solving lives. You're not avoiding life. You're processing it on a frequency the crowd can't hear. And let's talk about the cultural propaganda. We're bombarded with the imagery of the good life, the packed brunches, the exclusive events, the grinning faces in neon-lit clubs. The message is clear: to be seen is to be alive. But what if the opposite is true? What if the richest life is the one lived on your own terms? If your perfect Saturday involves a slow brew, a worn-out hoodie, and the complete absence of obligation, that's not a lack of ambition. Peace over performance is not a compromise, it's a preference. Of course, the line between sanctuary and prison can blur. For some, the walls of home aren't just comfortable, they're necessary shields against a world that feels genuinely threatening. Social anxiety, unresolved trauma, or the heavy blanket of depression can turn a preference into a prison. If you learned early that loud voices meant danger, then silence becomes your only safe space. If chaos was the norm, you spend your adult life building an environment of rigid calm. The critical question isn't, do you stay home? It's why? Are you returning to a place of power or retreating from a fear of living? One is a source of strength. The other is a cage you've decorated yourself. But for the true home lover, the one this video is really about, the experience is entirely different. They're not hiding. They are curating. They find profound joy in the micro rituals that the outside world overlooks. The first pour of coffee in their favorite mug. The specific angle of the sun that hits the couch at 4 p.m., the familiar texture of a book they've read a dozen times. Their world isn't small. It's intensely deep. They've mastered what psychologists call low stimulation seeking. They don't need the world to provide a show because they generate their own internally. Their mind is a garden, not a parking lot. It needs tending, not traffic. So, if you're the one who says no without guilt, who finds a quiet night in more luxurious than a night out, who sees your home not as a place to escape from, but a place to escape to, you are not a puzzle to be solved. You are not missing the party. You have simply realized that the loudest charger doesn't charge you the fastest. You've learned that silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. If that resonates, hit subscribe to Quiet Strength. We explore the corners of the mind most channels are too noisy to find. And in the comments, answer this honestly. Is your home a sanctuary you run towards or a shelter you hide in? The difference is everything. The next video is a deep dive into the psychology you've been living but never understood. Click the video on screen now to see it. It might just explain the one thing about yourself you could never put into words.